This year for the holidays, super muscular and athletic Cardano Claus is bringing you the gift of knowledge. That knowledge is that many of the ideas we have normalized in crypto simply have no current factual basis. Code is not law. Something is not necessarily allowable just because a protocol allows it. Decentralization is not a get out of jail free card that trumps the Howey Test. There is nothing special about crypto that allows you to openly do things that would be illegal in the traditional finance world. If it would be illegal outside of crypto, it's probably also going to turn out to be illegal inside of crypto. Everybody thinks the regulators and the long arm of the law somehow can't reach crypto. The truth is probably that they've just been busy with bigger industries and they're just now getting around to us. Ready? Let's go. Today, we're going to discuss the arrest of Mango Markets exploiter Avi Eisenberg. Ethereum developers being very worried about a possible ticking time bomb. Coinbase coming at users with an unsettling practice. Why Gary Gensler doesn't want new crypto regulations. And your big chance to talk to the Cardano Foundation if you're building something. If at first glance you couldn't tell if Cardano Claus was CGI or just a photo of an action figure, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. Also, I'm still on the hunt for sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor one or more of these episodes, please hit me up on Twitter. I felt like Cardano Claus had to have that physique to represent the probable level of fitness of the average person in Cardano. I think we're probably all built roughly like that. So I thought that was like a good representation of all of us in Cardano. You probably remember in October, the exploit of Mango Markets went down. And it was a pretty big exploit, 114 million. But what was crazier is what happened right after the exploit. But before we get to that, here's how the exploit actually worked. First, he opened up a gigantic perpetual futures position in this Mango Markets coin. Then he took about $4 million and on 3 separate exchanges, he bought the coin to drive the price up. And it was very effective. The price went up something like 2,300%. And of course, then he had this unrealized profit in the perpetual futures position, which he used as collateral to take out a $116 million loan from Mango Markets that, of course, he would never repay because the value of the collateral was going to dump as soon as the little pump and dump scheme ran its full course. So the people who had value locked in Mango Markets, of course, all that was drained. So far, this just sounds like a typical robbery forest exploit event, the kind we're used to seeing, where the bad guys make off with all the money, remain anonymous, and are never seen or heard from again. But that's where this story got weird. A few days after the exploit happened, all of a sudden, the perpetrators took credit publicly and openly. So here's Avi Eisenberg's Twitter account. On October 15th, he said, "Statement on recent events. I was involved with a team that operated a highly profitable trading strategy last week." I guess that'd be one way of putting it, a highly profitable trading strategy. "I believe all of our actions were legal open market actions using the protocol as designed, even if the development team did not fully anticipate all the consequences of setting parameters the way they are." He went on to say, "Unfortunately, the exchange this took place on, Mango Markets, became insolvent as a result, with the insurance fund being insufficient to cover all liquidations. This led to other users being unable to access their funds." See that? Other users. He's just among the users. He's just a user who had a very highly profitable trading strategy. "To remedy the situation, I helped negotiate a settlement agreement with the insurance fund with the goal of making all users whole as soon as possible, as well as recapitalizing the exchange. This is similar to how auto deleveraging works on exchanges such as Binance and BitMEX. Sure, this happens all the time on Binance and BitMEX. Somebody just makes off with $114 million, clawing back some profits from profitable traders in order to ensure all user funds are protected. As a result of this agreement, once the Mango team finishes processing, all users will be able to access their deposits in full with no loss of funds." What he's leaving out when he says he helped negotiate a settlement is what's reported on in this original article. He returned 67 million, but he kept the other 47 million. So he returned 67 million to the Mango Markets protocol, to the DAO that controlled the protocol, but he kept 47 million. Sounds like a super awesome strategy, right? He made 47 million in like 10 minutes when it was all said and done. I guess not counting the time it took him to negotiate the settlement. Pretty awesome strategy, except one thing. We already have laws for this. And someone pointed it out on the day he explained his side of the story. This poster down here said, "That's what you believe, but it's market manipulation and probably will land you in jail like this guy and many other similar cases. You should have learned to use Google before learning to hack." That part of his whole highly profitable trading strategy, where he pumped up the value of the coin so that he could use the unrealized perpetual futures profit as collateral for the loan, that part, according to the US federal government, is called market manipulation. All of that happened back in October, but fast forward to now, and just today, this news hit the crypto Twitters. Avi Eisenberg was arrested yesterday in Puerto Rico and charged with market manipulation offenses. Just like the poster in his original thread warned him back in October, he is being charged with market manipulation by the same U.S. attorney from the Southern District of New York who is involved in the FTX case. I have attached complaint with the complaint number, which charges Avi Eisenberg with market manipulation offenses. The complaint is sealed. Last night, the defendant was arrested in the District of Puerto Rico and will be presented later today. Proposed order on sealing the complaint is enclosed for the court's consideration. Apparently, if you are doing anything bad in crypto, you do not want to be in the Caribbean. Lately, they always get these guys in the Caribbean. I think this is just a peak example of something that's pretty widespread in crypto, and that's people figuring out ways to line their pockets with other people's money and thinking it's somehow not illegal because crypto, full stop. The explanation is always just kind of like, it's legal because it's crypto. But I think the thing that a lot of people are going to discover in 2023, maybe this will be the big year when we see things like this a lot more often. So far, just in the waning days of 2022, we've started to see a pretty big pickup in these kinds of things happening, these kinds of arrests and regulators getting tougher and even worse legislation being proposed in Congress. But I think we're going to see a lot of these incidents where people have done these various things. And it's not just exploits. People figure out how to line their pockets with other people's money in a lot of ways. And it often takes the form of capital formation. They People have done a lot of capital formation in crypto in ways that would certainly be illegal if it wasn't crypto. And there hasn't ever been any kind of factual basis for this idea that it's okay to do it in crypto just because decentralization or just because it's crypto or just because they're tokens. It's always just been this this sort of like ongoing urban myth that there was some factual basis for the legality of a lot of the things that were going on. But I think the reason why it seemed legal to a lot of people, like in this case, Avi Eisenberg here, he believed so strongly one of a couple things. Either he thought he was going to get found out and he might as well just go public anyways, or he actually believed strongly that he would never be in any legal trouble for what he had done. So it was okay for him to come out publicly and claim responsibility for draining Mango markets. It's got to be one of those two things. Either he thought he was going to get exposed anyways, so he thought I'd beat them to the punch and come out publicly, or he really did think that he would never get in trouble for this. As he said, I believe all of our actions were legal, open market actions using the protocol as designed. To him, that was enough. But the thing he forgot about was what he did is not anything new or ingenious. This kind of market manipulation has been happening for a long time in the traditional finance world. And we've had laws against it for a long time. The reason why this market manipulation charge sounds so open-ended is so they can catch guys doing stuff exactly like this. That's the reason they have this law against market manipulation. That's also why the rules and definitions about securities in the US are so open ended. They're super open ended so that they can apply that to any bad actors doing capital formation. And of course, it's always after the fact, but when they have this super open ended definition of a security that's kind of encompassed in the Howey Test from the Howey case, it makes it really easy for the regulators to go after the bad actors because the test is so open-ended. It's so easy for something to become a security. And this is also why Gary Gensler doesn't want new crypto laws. You would think that the SEC would be the one leading the charge to get new crypto rules, a new set of regulations, because the securities regulations are obviously not a good fit for crypto. But Chair Gensler doesn't see the need for new crypto laws, according to this article in the New York Times. And it that might seem a little bit puzzling at first until you consider a very good point made by this poster. Jim Bianco says adopting new regulations for crypto means the SEC loses power to a new digital asset regulator or the CFTC. So Gensler, looking out for himself first, thinks existing SEC regs and the Howey Test are good enough. This is why the rhetoric from Gary Gensler has always seemed so, to us in crypto, probably ridiculous in a lot of cases, because he pretty much has said that we don't need new SEC regs. We've got the Howey Test, and pretty much all of crypto are securities. Because if we get new regulations that allow crypto to flourish like we all want, that's probably going to mean some kind of new crypto regulator, some kind of new agency or something to regulate crypto, or crypto falls under the CFTC as commodities. In both cases, that cuts out the SEC. So I think he's probably right. This is probably why Gary Gensler's take on crypto and the appropriateness of current regs seems so ridiculous to us in crypto, because any promulgating of new regulations, new rules, passing new statutes, any of those things probably result in one of these two taking over crypto, some kind of new regulator or the CFTC, and neither of those are good for the SEC. Speaking of things that are bad, Stake with Pride in this post pointed out some very concerning rhetoric coming out of the Ethereum core developer community. So you can see here he's saying, we can't even get bridges correct. Very likely that every zero knowledge EVM, when they come out, they have at least one vulnerability. And it's, likely that these vulnerabilities will eventually get found. And the worry here is that we might have on our hands a $10 billion hack. So notice he said, he's not saying there's a remote possibility there's a $10 billion hack. He says it's very likely that every single zero knowledge EVM, when they come out, very likely that they will have at least one vulnerability, and it's also likely, I think he said, and it's likely that these vulnerabilities will eventually get found, and he's worried they might have a $10 billion hack. And how are they going to solve this problem? The thing they realized very recently is that there's a very simple set of training wheels, and that set of training wheels that they can put on these ZK rollups, which involves using SGX. So basically, we're going to have a dual engine system where on the one hand, you have the snark proof, and on the other hand, you have an SGX proof. SGX is these trusted enclaves by Intel. And I think Stake with Pride is right. He says Ethereum will use Intel trusted enclaves to secure ZK rollups from vulnerabilities, using hardware solutions, specific brands, or specific CPUs to secure billions of blockchain value, suggests seriously flawed design fundamentals and values. So we all know Ethereum has gone whole hog into ZK rollups. That is their scaling solution. But now they're saying, hey, it's very likely that all of these ZK rollups will have at least one vulnerability. Why? Because they can't even get bridges correct. So it's, likely the vulnerabilities will eventually get found, and you might have in your hands a $10 billion hack. That's where Ethereum core development is right now. They are worried about $10 billion hacks and going to Intel trusted enclaves to secure their ZK rollups. The Intel website says Intel Software Guard Extensions, Intel SGX, is an Intel technology for application developers who are seeking to protect select code and data from disclosure or modification. The Intel documentation explains the core idea of SGX is the creation of a software enclave. The enclave is basically a separated and encrypted region for code and data. The enclave is only decrypted inside the processor, so it is even safe from the RAM being read directly. Nothing says decentralization like having to rely on Intel to protect your blockchain. Ladies and gentlemen, if the failures of your biggest competitor are your own victories, then I would say Cardano looks like it may be on the path to victory. Speaking of fundamentally bad developments, you might have noticed recently on Coinbase that if you want to add a new fiat bank account, if you want to connect a new fiat bank account to your Coinbase account, Coinbase is pretty much making you use Plaid. So there maybe somebody has some way to do it without using Plaid, but when I looked recently, you could only use your debit card. You could enter your debit card directly, and they could do some shuffling of money back and forth to your debit card. But if you wanted to use ACH, which I believe is the much cheaper option on Coinbase, it looked to me like you have to use Plaid, or at least they make it very difficult to not use Plaid, which is kind of a problem if you look a little bit into Plaid and you care about your own personal financial privacy. Right here on the Investopedia page, you can find all kinds of information about Plaid, including this warning, a warning box. Plaid recently settled a class action in which it agreed to pay $58 million to individuals who had used its interface, including Venmo, Robinhood, and Coinbase users. The lawsuit was based on Plaid acquiring more data than it needed and storing the user's bank account login credentials on Plaid's system. If you thought LastPass was bad, if the LastPass hack was bad, if that security failure was bad, imagine, and LastPass, I mean, their whole job, their whole focus was preventing the bad guys from getting a hold of your data. Imagine Plaid having your login credentials to all of your various bank accounts. And they also tell you right in their terms of service that Plaid is going to have access to your transaction data. Here you go, right on the Plaid website. With your permission, apps like Venmo and Acorns use your financial data to provide services to you. Depending on the app, the types of data you share may include things like account and routing numbers, account balances, transactions data. How about some random tech company having access to all of your transaction data in your accounts? I know for some people, this isn't a problem. They wouldn't be alarmed by this. They're more than happy to give up their data. But I think for a lot of us in crypto, privacy is a heightened concern, something we probably care about more than the average consumer. And I think giving up your transaction data is a pretty high price to pay just to connect your fiat account to your Coinbase account. And just in case you fell for their language on that last page where they said you may choose to share the following information, right here in the end user privacy policy, they get real specific. Information we collect from your financial accounts. This may include, and it's all these categories of information. Just on the account transactions, they say they may collect amount, date, payee, type, quantity, price, location, involved securities, and a description of the transaction. Do you really want some random tech company to know every time you buy beer, to know every time you buy anything? They could create a profile of your commercial behavior that would pretty much describe everything about you. I don't think that's a price you should have to pay just to use Coinbase. Finally, if you're building something in Cardano in DeFi or NFTs right now, you may be interested in this post. This is from John McPherson, who's the senior CeFi and DeFi relationship manager at the Cardano Foundation. He says, if you're building on Cardano in DeFi or NFT and feel you have had a lack of support from our side, please reach out. I will personally have a chat with you and see what we can do. And then he gives his contact information. So if you want to talk to the Cardano Foundation and you're building a project, I guess in one of these two areas, this is the post for you. I hope everybody had a great holiday season. I hope everybody's looking forward to the new year coming up, and I will talk to you tomorrow.